What's up, goodies? Welcome back to your girl channel and to my kitchen. And I'm here with another requested recipe. I'm going to show you how to make a Jamaican cassava pudding in my kitchen. Fast, easy, and simple. If you're here watching me for your first time, be sure you subscribe and turn on your post notification settings so you will always be reminded whenever your girl upload a brand new video. Let's jump right into the recipe.
Eyes of a star girl, hey, she fit me, and she give me love plenty. Yeah, she authentic. This are the real thing. This are
Okay, goodie, you ready for cook? Let's cook. Now, I have my cassava here, and I think I have a pound and a half of cassava. However, you want to make sure that you have 2 cups of grated cassava when you get done with that step. Now, you're going to need coconut. You could either use fresh coconut, or in fact, you can use a canned coconut, right? Now, any kind of coconut of your choice is fine, even the powdered coconut. If you have that, you just go ahead and grab it. But I'm going to be using fresh coconut for this recipe to keep it authentic. Now, to get the recipe combined, you're going to need all-purpose flour. And I'm going to put everything that I'm using here will be down in the description box. You need baking powder, cinnamon, allspice, salt, and nutmeg for the recipe. You also need vanilla and cornmeal. Now, I love raisins in any kind of a pudding that I'm making, and guys, it's totally optional, but I'm going to put raisins in mine. I'm also going to be adding a little bit of Ray and Neville white rum to give it flavor and also to keep the pudding fresh for a very long time, and that is also optional. Now, to get started, you are going to sift your flour first to be sure that your pudding is fluffy. Go ahead and add the cornmeal and the spices into a strainer and sift it thoroughly. I do have another recipe, the sweet potato pudding recipe that I did a while back, and I will insert that link down below to show you how to make sweet potato pudding in your kitchen fast, easy, and simple. Okay, so now that we have sifted everything through the strainer, you want to go ahead and combine the mixture just like that, just to be assured that your pudding will in fact be fluffy, very fluffy with a capital F. And set it aside. Okay then, now moving right along, I have my cassava. My cassava is all peeled and ready to be either grated, or in this case I'm going to put it in my food processor. Now before you put it in there, you want to make sure you cut it in a smaller pieces, of course, right? This is my pieces of choice, and we are going to make sure we have 2 cups. 2 cups, you need 2 cups of the recipe. So just go ahead and either grater or make it fast, easy, and simple like I'm doing here. And I just put it in my food processor and let it process away. Okay, as you see here, I have 2 cups. 2 cups of the cassava in my cup there. That is what you're going to need, at least 2 cups. Alright, now we are moving on to the massive step, and that is getting the wet ingredients. So we go ahead and we add 2 cups of coconut milk, and then you want to add a cup and like a half. I think I use a cup and a half of brown sugar, but you don't have to use that much, or you could use more. That's going to be on you, but I use 1.5 cup of brown sugar. Mix it along, kind of dissolve that sugar a tad bit. Like here, do not use white granulated sugar for this recipe. Keep it authentic by using brown sugar. The brown sugar does something to the pudding when you make it, to the taste, to the texture. So make sure that you use cane sugar or brown sugar. Okay, not granulated. Now we're going to combine the dry ingredients into the wet. And I only had it a half first, and then I added the 2 cups of cassava, the grated cassava, into that mix right there. And we are going to combine that first. And goodie, remember everything what I use right here, it'll be down in the description box, so go ahead and check that out. They are there, all the exact amount and all that stuff are gonna be down below, right? So check it out. And again, also the pudding, the sweet potato pudding recipe, that will be down there too, if you want to make that one as well, if you had missed that video. Now I'm going to go in and add the remaining of the dry ingredients into the wet and go ahead and combine thoroughly. Now at this point you want to make sure that your oven is on. Goodie, turn on your oven. You want to put this pudding into a preheated oven only. Okay, so now that that is all combined, we're going to add the vanilla to the mix. We're going to add that little tad bit of white rum, the Jamaican white rum, or anything that you have. And I'm also going to add you could either add cooking oil here, or you could either add melted butter, but to this particular recipe I did add cooking oil instead of butter. Give it a good mix and combine everything thoroughly. Now, this is optional, like I said earlier, raisins, but because I love raisins in all of my pudding them, I'm going to go ahead and add raisins. Some people ask me, why are we going to put raisins into the pudding? It's optional, guys. If you like it, you put it, and if you don't like it, you leave it out. Period, point blank. Now that my baking container is all prepped and ready to go, I love a lot of butter in anything that I'm baking because the outer layer tastes excellent when you add extra butter to it. So I'm just going to go ahead and just layer my mixture up in that good right there. Alright, that's perfect. And to make sure that my pudding does not crack, always wrap it tightly with foil paper before you put it in the oven. When you are baking anything and you cover the top up, it's not going to crack because the steam is going to keep the top moist and it won't crack. But if you leave it uncovered, it's definitely going to have a crack in the middle. After it's done baking an hour later, because it does take an hour to bake, that is what you're going to have. Perfectly moist, soft, delicious, flavored, authentic Jamaican cassava pudding right there. Now, if you want to have it more jelly on the top, it's very simple to do. And I'm going to show you how to do that. I did do that when I made the Jamaican sweet potato pudding. You don't have to do it here, but you definitely can do it. After about the next day, I didn't cut it that same day, I just let it sit, and the next day, that is exactly how it looked a day later. So I made this pudding like about 9 o'clock that night, and the next day in, that is how it looks. That is how it looked the next day. All right, you don't want to cut into your pudding when you just bake it. You want to go just let it sit and chill out and absorb all its flavor, and the texture is going to come together, and it's going to be perfect the next day. Sometimes I'll 2 days before I cut my pudding. It tastes better that way. When it's stale, it tastes better. But look at that. Look at the texture of that cassava pudding. It's perfect. Now, like I was telling you before, if you want to make it more jelly on top, just get some of that coconut milk, add a little butter to it, melted butter to it, and just mix it thoroughly like I'm doing here. Just give it a good mix, real good mix. And then after you mix it like that, when the pudding is still hot, you want to make sure. I'm going to show you how I did it with the sweet potato pudding. I didn't add it to this one. But this is a sweet potato pudding that I did before, and that's how I did it, was just go ahead and pour that liquid on top of it, and I put it back in the oven for a few minutes and just let it absorb into that pudding. But I didn't do it for this one, I didn't want it that way. But look at the texture of the cassava pudding, and good, the thing is so good. It's so good. Look at this texture, and the smell that's coming from this cassava pudding is so good. Now cassava pudding is a little bit more dense than the sweet potato pudding is because you're going to add more cornmeal to it and more flour, but the flavor is amazing, amazing. And like I said, if you want to have a little jelly on top of your cassava pudding, just go ahead and just get the coconut milk and all that other little butter, mix it together and just pour it on top of it, and just do it the same way you would do the sweet potato pudding, and you're good to go. Jamaican cassava pudding is just one of those puddings that you just have to try. Once you try this pudding, you will never forget the flavor and the texture. It's one of those recipes that you just have to try. I hope you like the recipe. Give it a thumbs up. Share it with your friends and family. Tell them what's going on over here. Bring them, come and send them. Come, I'm waiting. Then after you do that, tell me where you want me to cook next in my kitchen. And as always, from my kitchen to your kitchen. Enjoy.